Hey guys, and welcome into part 2 of the every team's cuts. Basically what I'm doing here is just going through every NFC team that I believe, one player on their team that should be cut this offseason. If you missed out on part 1, be sure to go check that out. That was uploaded yesterday. And of course, as you see on the screen, make sure to follow me on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like the video, as well as Instagram, Twitter. And if you ever want to stay in touch with my official big board, which I pretty much update daily on the Draft Network, go ahead and check that out. It's going to be in the comment section below at the top. So we're going to be starting off with the number 1 seed in the NFC East, and we're going to be going by division. We're starting off with the Green Bay Packers here and Randall Cobb. Now, the only possible thorn in this is if Randall Cobb is really liked by Aaron Rodgers and Rodgers like, I'm not staying if we get rid of Cobb, which I don't see that happening. They brought back Cobb because they thought him and Rodgers had a good relationship and such, and in reality, Cobb just wasn't used as much as we thought he was. We thought he'd have a little bit bigger of a role. So the fact that Scantling is a free agent, Lazard is restricted but a free agent, it's very possible that they hold on to Cobb. But for that amount of money, almost $7 million, Cobb's just not that kind of receiver anymore to be worth $7 million. I think that's a good cap cut to get out of. The Vikings fans rejoice because you really don't have anybody that needs to be cut. That's not saying you guys don't have bad contracts or anything, because there are, but the cap hits on those are pretty astronomical. So there's really not a surefire cut for the Vikings. I just put Andrew DePaulo. He's the long snapper. That's really, it's free up $1 million. That's pretty much that's all you really need. He's been cut before, and I'm pretty sure brought back. So yeah, according to the team, he's on the roster for next year for $1 million. I would clear that space up and just get a kid, undrafted free agent that can snap the ball or train somebody else to do it. But yeah, not much to say about the Vikings in that sense, at least. So Vikings fans, congrats. You don't have anybody that you need to cut that's worth value, at least. Going on to the Chicago Bears, I got Nick Foles. Nick Foles is only going to free up $3 million. It's going to have a pretty big cap hit. I'm not going to lie to you. The reason I'm doing this is because even though it's only freeing up $3 million, I just don't see a need for Foles to be in Chicago anymore. He doesn't fit the new offense that they're going to be running. He doesn't fit what Justin Fields can do. And with Fields looking like he's going to be the number 1 guy, Dalton, I believe, is a free agent. And you might as well cut Nick Foles, use that $3 million towards another backup quarterback or draft a quarterback in the draft that fits more of Justin Fields' play style, because he's going to need to learn from a guy, a Cam Newton, a Tyrod Taylor maybe, if Taysom Hill gets cut, something like that. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but I just don't see Nick Foles as that guy to be backing up Justin Fields as he tries to develop. You might want to keep him just for the fact that he is a backup quarterback and he can help out in the development of Justin Fields. But for me, I just don't think he fits it. He doesn't fit what the team's going to be running. And as well, although you're going to have to take that cap hit, the Bears aren't in a place where they're going to be competing for a championship next year, most likely. So when you get a guy like Nick Foles off the books, and that dead cap really is it only affects this year. So free up $3 million, and that dead cap will be okay after this season. For the Lions, this one, there's a couple guys. Trey Flowers is up there and among others, but I went with Hal Vaitai. The reason I went with him here is that even though it's only freeing up $3.5 million and you are having a good amount of dead cap, he just was not good. Truthfully, he just was not good on this Lions line. And for an offensive line that is so talented, Ragnow is a monster, obviously, when he's not injured. They got Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker as the tackles, which is a great tackle tandem, and then Jonah Jackson, the Pro Bowler, in the left side. So it's like, in reality, they only have one weak spot, and it's right guard. And the thing is that he's getting paid more than most of the guys on the line. So the fact that it's a weak spot, the fact that he's getting paid so much, I think you clear up that cap space, use it to, replace that position with somebody else that might fit better. If they want to try another season with Vaitai, I get it. But personally for me, I'd eat the dead cap. Again, this is a team that's not supposed to be competing next year. They have a lot of money. So eating that, I think it's $6 million, $5 million in dead cap. That's not going to be too bad compared to saving that 3.5 this year, being able to use that and replacing, the bad performance of Vaitai. Moving on over to the Buccaneers. Again, another team that has a couple of guys that are definitely up for consideration here. I went ahead and went with Cam Brate. He's got paid a nice contract, and immediately Gronk came over, and, it slowed down the development of O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard had that one really good year. But it's an odd situation because O.J. Howard's a free agent. Gronk's probably retiring, but he's also a free agent. So Cam Brate's really the only tight end on the roster other than like the really young guys, So it's not necessarily an easy cut, but at the same time with that money, I think you can cut him, save that money, and probably even bring him back on a cheap deal. Because I don't know if there's going to be too much of a market for Cam Brate, but also that money can be saved and spent to bring back other free agents because there's a lot of them. So I think the most amount of money that you can have, I think that this Buccaneers offense right now, because no Brady and such, it's in an awkward situation of, what are we going to look like next season? And Cam Brate being the starting tight end for as much as he's making just doesn't seem right for the team. So that's why I have them cutting Cam Brate. There are other guys that are definitely able to be moved on from, but this is just what I decided was best for the team in my personal opinion. But let me know if you guys have somebody else in the comment section below. Now, this is probably the hottest take of the video. I have Taysom Hill here, and it's not even going to clear space. It's going to create about $6.6 million more in debt. The reason I have this move is that Taysom Hill got paid an extension that he should not have gotten, and I think it was very much behind the backing of Sean Payton. Now that Sean Payton's gone, I just don't know if Hill is going to be looked at as that guy because he's getting paid, a good amount of money, but he's not a good quarterback. He's not a good tight end. He's not a good running back. He's just like below average at all of those things, but because he can do all of those things, that he got paid I don't know. It's a very weird situation, but for me, the Saints are in cap hell, right? They really are. They're not a team that's going to compete next year because of that cap hell. Because Marshawn Lattimore's contract goes up to $27 million this season and then goes back down to normal after this. Ryan Ramczyk is skyrocketing this season, everything. So this season is very much a wash because of all the restructures and the deals that they made to try and get Breeze one more. And although they had a good shot, they didn't end up getting it. And now this is the year coming up, 2022, that they knew and have been looking ahead to where this is going to be the year that it's going to be hard on the cap. We're going to have to let a lot of players go. So I think that you cut a guy like Taysom Hill, you eat the dead cap while you're having a bunch of other guys getting overpaid for this year. So then next season, Taysom Hill's contract's not on the books. You don't have to lose any money on his dead cap. The other contracts will come down that have been restructured. So this season's going to be tough. You're going to have to really adjust the cap. But then next season, you'll be very much set up. So I think that you try and make some good small deals and hope that they pan out. Try and keep as many people in-house as you can. And just, again, this is a team that had 3 quarterbacks and still almost made the playoffs. So just try and do your best. Maybe get a rookie quarterback to help out that contract situation and, just kind of do what you can. But, again, I just think adding Taysom Hill's, $6.5 million cap hit to this year when the cap is already pretty much screwed, I think it's the best case scenario for you because you don't want to get out of the cap situation and then have to cut Taysom Hill. And yes, you could trade him. There's just no team that's going to want to trade for that contract at all. There might be people that want Taysom Hill. There's no one that's going to pay him the money that he got. So, when you do bad business, sometimes you got to make dumb decisions, and this is one of them where you have to pay someone to not have them on your team anymore because of the bad decision that was the extension. Going over to the Falcons, Tyler Davidson's the pick. He's not even a starter on a team that's not very good. He's been there for a while. It's not necessarily that he's a bad player, that he doesn't have potential, or that he can't get on the field or anything like that. But the money he's making is just a little too much for me for a team in the Falcons who, although we're very competitive this year, can retool a lot and can get a lot better. So for me, Tyler Davidson, I just don't see him as a Falcon next season. I think that he'll definitely get a job somewhere and get a cheaper deal and such. But yeah, just doesn't really fit my idea for the Falcons going into next year. You're saving almost $4 million by getting rid of him as well, and that money can be well spent in other places. So Davidson, unfortunately, is going to have his time with Atlanta come to an end, in my personal opinion. Going over to the Panthers here. Again, another team that there's a good amount of guys here. AJ Bouilla is one that I think is going to be more of a popular opinion, but with Stephon Gilmore and Dante Jackson both being free agents, I think that having Bouilla, even though it's more than I'd probably pay Bouilla right now for being, more of a depth corner, when you have young guys like C.J. Anderson and J.C. Horn probably being your 1 and 2 next year, having Bouilla there I think is going to be solid unless you can bring back one of those other guys. Then, yeah, I think Bouilla might be a cap casualty, but for me it's Cam Irving. He's had a lot of chances in the NFL to try and get something going, and he just has not stuck anywhere. He was in Dallas. I'm pretty sure the Giants had him for a year. And now he's obviously in Carolina, and they moved him around, moved him to left tackle, and I'm pretty sure he's the worst graded offensive lineman on their line, according to PFF. And this is one of the worst offensive lines in football as well. So you're saving $2 million to get rid of one of the pieces of the worst offensive line in football. I think that's a big win for the Panthers to free up that money. It's only $2 million, but then again, I think the production Cam Irving was giving you can be replaced with that $2 million, sadly. But yeah, this is a team that just needs to recalibrate and get some more talent on that offensive line. But this is a talented roster, man. Genuinely, there's not a weak spot on this team other than tight end and offensive line. Pretty much every defensive position is stacked to the roof. Wide receiver is looking really nice. I believe in Terrace Marshall still. Rookie seasons don't necessarily go against anybody for me. McCaffrey, when healthy, and Hubbard, I really like the tandem there. So this is an exciting team. Offensive line is one of those tricky things where we've seen the Giants and among other teams just not be able to compete for a long time because of not being able to get the line right. And it's a hard thing to get right. But when you do get it right, you notice it right away. The Colts with Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, the Saints getting Ryan Ramczyk, Andres Pete, Eric McCoy, the Chiefs, they let all their good offensive linemen go. Everyone's like, oh, this offensive line is going to be so bad. They go ahead and draft Creed Humphrey. They bring in Joe Thuney, Orlando Brown. This is a common theme. Cowboys obviously spending those draft picks on Zach Martin instead of Johnny Manziel and getting Tyron Smith back in the day, and Lyle Collins transitioning him around and oh my gosh, why can't I think of the center name? That he was there for such a long time, and he one of the best centers in football, if not the best during his time. I can't think of his name for some reason, but building the trenches is very important, especially in today's day and age with the most athletic edge rushers in the game. Pressuring the quarterback is as important as an offensive line. They're right up there. Quarterback, offensive line, edge rusher. We all know those are the most important things in the league. And right now the Panthers have edge rusher, but they don't have the other ones. So we'll see what happens. They have a top 7 pick, so we'll see if they go offensive line, if they replace that quarterback position. There's a bunch of different things they can do, but interested to see it. Now, before we get into this, Rams fans, hear me out on it because I know that this is a weird one. Truthfully, there's not many people on the Rams that are worth cutting. There really isn't. I'm guessing Andrew Whitworth is going to retire because he's over 40 years old. He just won the Super Bowl. He just won Walter Payton Man of the Year. There's no better way to go out. You're going out as a champion. You're going out as the Man of the Year, which is, in my opinion, the biggest honor in the NFL, truthfully. There's no better way to go out. So I think that he's gonna retire. But as of right now, he is not retired. So looking at it, even though Whitworth is one of the best tackles in football still, and this line is not as great as it could be, freeing up $16 million to let a 40-year-old tackle go is going to not only bring back the offensive linemen that are hitting free agency for you, but it's going to help you maintain and solidify the Super Bowl roster and keep them in-house. There's other ways you can help out this money and such, but in reality, there's no necessarily guy that sticks out to me other than Whitworth that should be cut from this team. And like I said, the feeling is that he's going to retire, and then it becomes a little bit different with the cap and such, but yeah, this is a guy that does not deserve to be cut. He does not deserve to be let go, like I said. But personally for me, I think it's the time for him to retire, go be with his kids and his family, who he's such a great man with that. But yeah, Walter Payton Man of the Year, Super Bowl champion. This guy has had a legendary career. I'd say a Hall of Famer, and I think he should go out on top. So I don't think that he necessarily needs to be cut. If he decides he's coming back and he wants to still play, if he says, oh, I want to play for another year or two, I'd let him go, or maybe I'd try and trade him to a team, try and trade him to an AFC team that can still compete, but or maybe he just wants to go and moved somewhere, like I don't know if he likes LA. Let's say he likes, I know I'm rambling on the Rams for no reason, but let's say he really likes Texas, right? For whatever it is. Maybe you trade him to Houston so he can mentor the youth, play some football still, and, live his life out in Texas and retire there, bring the family there and settle in, because that's going to be his last spot. There's different ways he could do it, but again, I hope he retires because I think it's the best time for him too. But that's all we're going to say about the Rams. Going on to the Cardinals is going to be Matt Prater. Again, another team that has a good amount of options here. Truthfully, Devon Kennard, Jordan Phillips, among others. There's definitely a good amount of people that can be cut here. But Matt Prater did not have the best season. He had flashes where he was like, wow, this is the best kicker in football. He still got it, at his age. And there was times where it was like, wow, he cannot make a field goal. So that inconsistency, I think, is not worth the money that they're paying him. I think that they're paying him almost $5 million. Just get off the books, hopefully get a younger kicker. There's just so many kickers out there in the league. Joey Sly is constantly getting passed around the league, and I think he's a pretty solid kicker. But even then in free agency, there's a ton of kickers this year going into it. So, yeah, you can replace kicker pretty easily. And for the Cardinals, who I think just need to fix their identity, because when injuries affect a team as much as they did, there's teams like the Jets, the Giants, etc., who have injuries to basically the whole team, and that's a mess. But when you have two injuries, Rodney Hudson and DeAndre Hopkins, obviously there's other injuries, but when those are your two main injuries and the team cannot win a game and cannot move the ball on offense and such, that's a problem. And that's something that needs to be addressed more than paying your kicker as much as he's making. So free up $3.5 million, get rid of Matt Prater, replace him with another kicker, maybe get Zane Gonzalez back or something, and just try and win in the toughest division of football. And I don't see it going anywhere because of how the Rams are just stacked with talent. The Cardinals have young and solid talent. D-Hop, Kyler, etc. 49ers look like they're probably going to transition to Trey Lance, and we'll get to them in a second. But so they're young, Debo, Kittle, Bosa. They're still young and talented. And then the Seahawks are the odd ones out, but Russell Wilson's still a top quarterback. He's a Pro Bowler this year somehow. DK Metcalf, etc. So, yeah, this is the toughest division of football, and it looks like it's going to be for a while. Going on to San Fran, we're going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. If there's a team that's willing to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, definitely do that. And I think that there might be, because I think that if Jimmy hits the open market, he's still going to get paid $15 to $20 million to be a starting quarterback. Because even though he's inconsistent, I think that overall he is he's above average quarterback, if I had to say so. So I do see a team maybe not wanting to let him go to the open market and eating that extra $5 million or in cap or whatever it may be for the season, just to secure his talents and maybe help develop a younger quarterback again. Maybe whatever team drafts Malik Willis and doesn't want to start them right away, or maybe a Desmond Ridder, or you look at teams like, teams that could use a quarterback but don't necessarily need to draft one. Washington comes to mind. What are some other ones I can't think of right now? Houston, I guess. There's a ton of different things. Maybe Deshaun Watson wants to go to Houston, but then Trey Lance would get involved. So that'd be a mess. But yeah, I think if no one wants to trade for Garoppolo, you have to cut him. That's just a lot of money to be paying a quarterback when he's holding up the development of your number 3 overall pick that you basically traded a wagon for. He's got to see the field. He's got to develop, and he fits this scheme very well. I believe in Shanahan and what that team wants to do. Debo, Elijah Mitchell, Ayuk, Kittle. This is a really talented team. So I think them being young and athletic as they are, as great of a leader as Jimmy's been, he's gotten them to 2 NFC championships. He's gotten them to a Super Bowl. It's a tough one to swallow, but I think that Garoppolo's got to have his time up in San Francisco, and I think everyone agrees with that. Going over to Seattle, it's Jason Myers. There's a lot of kickers and punters in this video. I don't value them as much, but when you have a season like Jason Myers had where he wasn't kicking the ball much, and when he wasn't that accurate. I think he was hitting 73% of his field goals. If you're not hitting at least 80%, I don't want you on my team, personally, because there's different circumstances and stuff for misses, so they happen. 90% is what I want, but 80% I can settle for. But when you're making as much money as Jason Myers is, I think he's making $5 million going into next year, and then you're going to lose out on $1 million, but free up $4 million. Replace Myers. He didn't have a great year, and that's a lot of money to be paying a kicker to not be that good. Harrison Butker, Matt Gay, Younghoe Koo, I said Harrison Butker, I think, right? Graham Gano. These are guys that have earned their contracts, and McPherson's going to get that contract as well. Myers earned the contract, but I don't think has sustained it, and it's time to let him go and use that money elsewhere, because this is a team that isn't a bad team, but definitely could use some help. For the Cowboys, it's Conor McGovern. I think this is kind of the common one here. There's a couple of guys, but there's no main cut for the Cowboys. I thought about Tristan Hill just because of his mess with the Cowboys ever since he's been drafted, but it really would only free up $1 million, $1.5 million. I went with Conor McGovern because the guard play and the center play was not up to par this year, and the offensive line play was not up to par this year. Injuries had a lot to do with that, but when Connor was out in the field, he didn't look great. Connor Williams didn't look great either. I think both Connors just did not look good, but on top of that, you just you just need to retool this offensive line, and I think he's got to be one of those guys who goes, because if he couldn't make it onto the field this year, then I don't know what's going to happen. But that's pretty much all I got to say. Yeah, there's not much with the Cowboys. Going over to the Eagles, this is another team like the Vikings. There's really no cap casualty that needs to be gone this year. There's a lot of big cap hits I did not expect. I thought the Eagles, being I thought they were more of a younger team. But those contracts at the top are huge, man. Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, etc. But I ended up going with Arcega-Whiteside. It's his last year on the team anyway. After this year, he's an unrestricted free agent, and he just has not played well when he's on the field. So let him go, replace him with another younger talent, see if they can develop a little bit better. I'm surprised that they kept him over Fulgham last year. Fulgham played really well for them. But yeah, Arcega-Whiteside I think has got to go for the Eagles. Commanders, listen to me here because this is a tough one. This is another one where there could be multiple guys here, and I think that there should be. But one of the guys that I'm highlighting is Eric Flowers because of how much money it'll save. You lose out on no money if you let Eric Flowers go, but you save $10 million. $10 million is a lot of money. And Eric Flowers is not a scrub. Ever since he's been in Washington, he's been playing guard. He's not been a scrub. But when $10 million can be freed up and you have a guy like Sheriff hitting the market, I'd much rather use that $10 million to put towards Sheriff's contract than to pay Eric Flowers and then figure out how to replace Eric Flowers' production. Because as good as Eric Flowers has been, I think that his play can be replicated or replaced for cheaper, and that's a lot of money. Landon Collins, I think, should be cut as well, but that has a big cap hit and such. You're not clearing up as much space. The reason I went with Eric Flowers on the video is I'm only doing one per team. So like I said, there's multiple, but yeah, this is a guy where I think that although the talent's there, I think he'll get picked up pretty quickly in free agency. $10 million is a lot of money, and that's for a team like Washington who rebranded and is trying to become a new identity. I think that $10 million can go elsewhere. Last but not least, we are going with Riley Dixon for the New York Giants. Again, this is another team like Washington where there's a ton of guys that are possibilities. James Bradbury frees up, I think, almost $18 million. Blake Martinez frees up $8 million. So the thing is, though, is those guys, if they're on the team next year, I'm happy because they're all talented players. Riley Dixon is not talented. He's arguably the worst punter in football, at least of last year. He just had a very bad year, and he's getting paid upwards of $3 million, $4 million. So, yeah, I'm going to let Riley Dixon walk, free up $2.8 million, replace a punter for literally if I keep the $2 million and I use the $800K to replace him, I promise they'll do as good as Riley Dixon did last year. Granted, obviously, it wasn't a good year for the Giants in general, but this is just an easy cap casualty. I just don't see a way that he's on the roster next year. So that's going to be it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and comment down below. If you guys do see these videos and playlists on the screen, go ahead and click those and check those out as well. And be sure to, of course, if you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, refresh the page and let me know what you think about it the second time. But without further ado, that's going to be it from me. I'll see you in the next one.